There we go. It says I'm live now. Good. All right, so I'll paste that link. Here we go. I'll need a invite from whoever our. Let's say 8:30 EST. So I'm hoping that yeah, 8:30 EST. Yeah. Hmm. Anyways. All right. Well, in the meantime, I'll try to. All right. Well, in the meantime, we can take a couple of practice laps of the. Well, no, we won't. I don't care. It's Miami. There's not much. What do you call it? There's not much practice to. Well, I mean, that's not even true. It's a track where you will need practice if you're not, confident with what you have. So I guess, do with that information as you will. Just waiting for to get ready to go here. Test one, two, test one, two. I'm on a different mic input this time just because I don't want to have to shout. I can be, normal talking level like this and still kind of sound pretty good. So I'm going to continue to try to do this. The other mic is good, but it's more of like it's one of them blue snowball mics. Yeah, thank you, Spaceman. Appreciate that. I think a lot of it is just like with the other one. If I try to use it too close, the mic doesn't know how to react. Like if I try to use it handheld like an actual microphone, little loud even if the cars aren't on track. Well, yeah, that's also part of it. Yeah, that's how it is. Um, but with the other mic, like if you try to hold it up to your face, it doesn't know how to react correctly. It doesn't like really work as it should. With this one, it does sound worse, like the quality, but it's up against my face, so it is genuinely better. Although what I will say is I did use this mic in a cast yesterday at a race in Monaco. That race up on my channel now, and I used this mic, and it sounded pretty good. So I'm gonna stick with this one for the time being. But yeah, I try to have my mic quiet most of the time, but if I have it too quiet, then I get drowned out by the cars if it's like mid race or something. And I use the Halo cam a lot, as you know. So yeah, it's difficult, but it'll do. Thanks again for doing comms. Man, I did the league way back when it was not super easy. Always appreciate. Hang on, let me get my actual YouTube. I have the typically what's good about doing it now is I actually have the window side by side with good internet, and I'm able to do this. I'm actually able to have my stream going so I can watch what's happening. Spaceman, what have you just put in there? Thanks again for doing content. Not super easy. I appreciate all your leagues. Yeah, well, I tell you what, it has not been very easy, especially. I mean, at least now it's just second nature to me, really. I mean, I think at this point. it's easy enough to keep doing. And it hasn't gotten. I think a lot of the reasons, if obviously Spaceman, Midwest, we had Crash in there for the longest time, and I think a lot of it just gets monotonous. But being that I'm in doing these different things and that I'm able to I actually find this interesting. Being having been around this so much, I feel like it's just easier to talk about and it's easier to stay interested in because I just know most of the people. But at the same time, on the different side of the coin, I do like not knowing these people because then I got surprised in what they do. A lot of guys in this grid have that same thing, like Reimer. The first time I saw him, that was I want to say in the Jag League. Actually, I don't even know where. I think it must have been the Jag League, or it was someone else. I don't even know. Yeah, the League of the Cousins were always great, so that helps too. It does help, it does. And I think a lot of the time, even if the racing isn't that great, there are still things happening, and there's always championships like implications in play. And being at the point where I have the multiple screens set up here, I can look those things up on the fly. Like for instance, 3 clicks of a button, and here I am at the drivers' championship, knowing that through 4 rounds, DB the best is ahead of the schedule, ahead of the standings. It does help. Obviously, the on-track product is always good. That being said, as well, I mean, every track that we go to has its own like unique, not necessarily uniqueness, but it's got its own interesting thing to it. So for this track in particular, doesn't always provide the best racing, but you can guarantee that mistakes are going to be made. You can guarantee that DRS is going to come into play and make things happen. Monaco the other night, Monaco obviously super boring as far as racing goes. Qualifying fantastic, and always the influence of the back markers trying to get in the way and getting out of them forces you to try to make these moves. And we saw a lot of that. Actually, we saw a couple of good on track overtakes in the Jag League yesterday, so that was pretty cool. But I tell you what, I definitely prefer doing this more than the racing. It has been a good while since I've raced, but I'm hoping to find another league here, at least within maybe the back end of these, this next month and a half that I'm here. Perhaps I can find a good league to get driving in. Maybe for the start of the 24 game, I can get in a car and drive because I always like to, have an idea of what the drivers are going through. Tell you what, good looking grid tonight. 17 out of 20 for the time being. And I think we're gonna get at least 18, which is mega. Checking in the party, good. Call of Duty is no longer downloading in the background, which is fantastic. Imagine buying. Now, I just want to say this again. I bought this extended storage unit uh, not long ago. I bought this extended storage about a month ago. It's a terabyte big. I've already used about 400 gigabytes out of it, and I've only got maybe 4 games on the store. It is ridiculous how much storage that these PS5 games use. But it looks like we're here. Maybe full grid. Well, I tell you what, I thought I did see that in the Czech. So maybe full grid. Yeah, I think that's what I saw. When I looked earlier, we had a full 20. It was just a no-brainer that I had to join here, and it's actually quite good that we're starting this at a halfway decent hour. 8:30 is the earliest aside from the UK league. Now the UK league is about 4:30 or 3:30 once they turn their clocks forward, so 3:30 on Sundays. The Wednesday league I have for CCRL is 10:30, which is rough considering I have class the next day. Um, and then the Midwest obviously, as you knew, 9:30, and this one 8:30. So this is really good. I really like having this 8:30. The only bad thing about it is I can't join the GT7 league on Monday, which I enjoy, which is unfortunate. But so, uh, 20 drivers on the grid looking pretty good at a very difficult track. This Miami, as you know, one of them hybrid street circuits and permanent circuits that F1 loves making nowadays. The best part about the PS5 is I've got a mute button on the controller, so I can have a second to cough or take a sip of water, at my leisure, which is so nice. Because let me tell you something, I've had those races, commentary jobs with COVID and having pneumonia and whatnot, and they are not fun. Coughing every 5 seconds. Wireless headset? No, actually, it's a USB wireless. Matter of fact, I do have the PS5 wireless headset that the guy actually gave me when I bought the PS5, but he didn't have the USB, the plug-in, um, that you would need for the wireless headset. So I don't use it, but it is there and it is nice. So I'm hoping to get that. But no, this is just like a USB like regular old $20 headset you'd get at Walmart or something. This thing is fine. It's nice. The mute button works even with the headset on. Oh, that is nice. Hmm. That is such a nice headset, though. It's a shame I can't use it. Anyways, I'll start the hard recording once the countdown timer gets to about 15 seconds. Hard recording starting now. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the fourth round of this Monkey Mafia Esports F1 season here, this time at the Miami International Autodrome at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. Hotspot on the call with you once again here. Coming off the race last week in Brazil, which was largely dominated by Lancey, Caesar in Japan, Macho in Hungary, so three different winners to start off the first three rounds of this campaign. 20 drivers on the grid. It doesn't get much better than this, that's for sure. And we are here today at one of the newer tracks on the F1 schedule. One of the tracks that's it's very it's they enjoy making these hybrid street and permanent circuits. Now we see that with Albert Park, we see that with Jeddah, we see that now obviously with Miami. I believe Montreal falls under that category as well. It proves a lot of difficulty with these drivers considering there's no real elevation change and there's a lot of this track having been designed, I believe Herman Tilke designed this track, having been designed to create and generate these mistakes by the drivers. Definitely one of the more difficult ones we see on schedule, despite, not really appearing that initially. It appears as a very fast track with DRS, as it does, but the mistakes generated here in the track limits and, being in Florida, very humid and the weather changes constantly, always the threat of rain, and it has to be said, kind of gloomy looking day so far. Here in the Miami Gardens. Qualifying session underway now. We'll take you through the drivers and constructor standings. Show sun for both sessions. Thank you very much, Spaceman, because that is going to be helpful. We do like having the dry races. Looks like we should be clear of rain, funky breezy. Appreciate that. 15% rain both sessions. Okay, that's pretty good. I would say at that level we are probably clear of rain. Um, it's very interesting because remember how we would, prior to this generation of cars, we would pray for the rain races, and now it doesn't happen anymore because the racing with the addition of DRS and with how much DRS is a factor with these cars, it is just so much better. Showtime Favre is going to be first driver out on track. I called him Favre, like Brett Favre, for the majority of the last race. I only caught on to it, about 20 laps into the race, but we're here now. Anyways, driver standings on the way. Coming up now, we'll look at him here. DB DeBest leads the standings at 48 points to Caesar's 40. Gab at 37. V at 36, tied with Jacob at 36. Macho 33, DJE flat at 33 as well. Cynical and Slayer Eyes tied at 24. George Mazdaguy at 22. Gazboy 20. Tin Man, Zach, Reimer, Red 92 Mask, Jeezy, Spaceman, P. Gonzalez, Anime Boy, Funky Breezy, and King Julian is how the driver standings turn out here. As far as the constructors are concerned, oh boy, what's that window? Red Bull atop the table, 10 points over their sister team of AlphaTauri, 81-71. Williams not doing too bad at 66. Haas 57. McLaren and Mercedes tied at 53. Aston Martin only leads Ferrari by 1 at 49-48. Alpine 37 and Alfa Romeo 13. And that's how your constructor standings show up here. It does appear that DB DeBest, the current championship leader, out on track first here as he makes his way down the backstretch now. Very long backstretch. This over a kilometer long. One of the longest straights we do have in Formula One. Heading in towards now the 17th corner of the track. Very tight left-hander. That does oftentimes find mistakes on exits there. Not only with the wall creeping up on the outside, but as the oversteer, which you've just seen. DB DeBest across the line now, down in towards turn 1. A little bit of a bump on the way in, as you can see, just about there. It's a tight and tricky first corner, this. Not so much, physically the corner tight, but not a lot of room to move about. This first sector here is so difficult. It is one of the most high-speed and also high-downforce sectors you'll see on the Formula One calendar as he makes his way through 5, 6, and eventually 7 and 8 coming up here. It's an interesting balance that the drivers have to play with their car setups because you want the high downforce, but you also don't want too much rotation on the car. DB DeBest looks like he's got it made at the moment, so maybe he's gone with the stiffer anti-roll bars, which if you're not technically knowledgeably gifted, anti-roll bar is basically what it does. It makes sure the body roll of the chassis when you go through a corner is limited so that it doesn't rotate as much the car. And so what you'll have to do, at least with this track, you'll have to make sure you have a lot of downforce for that first sector. You also want to have the roll bars stiff so that the car doesn't constantly want to turn away from you. DB DeBest out of turn 16 now, down the back stretch. He's got clear track ahead of him, and that is very helpful. This track doesn't have a lot of runoff room despite being, well, as Zach is retired, that is... Well, sorry, we'll go along with that. We'll find whichever Aston Martin that is. We'll go along with V here. Where has Zach crashed the car? Oh, yeah, he's genuinely done that, too. I thought he may have retired on track. No, he has hit the wall somewhere along that section of the track, and, well, the McLaren, his day is done. DB DeBest, a 1:28 flat. Great lap from him, all ready to start here. Showtime about 0.2 of a second behind, as we'll have the Alfa Romeo of King Julian crossing the line now. We've got the Ferrari of Gab 1.7 behind, as Red Bull teammate of Ghost has gone third, 1.1 off the pace. The Alfa Romeo Funky Breezy has gone fifth. Williams up next of Gazboy, I believe. He's gone fourth. Williams, baby, I tell you what, I do enjoy the Williams, and by the Williams I mean Logan Sargent, because they have did him dirty and has now suddenly become the most dislikable team on the grid. That's probably not true, but a lot of people believe that. Aston Martin on the line now with V. We could debate the Logan Sargent thing all day long. It's such an interesting debate to try to go off of, but Slayer Eyes has gone third within a second now. Only 3 drivers within a second of the pole time, I must admit. A 1:28 flat is really good. My best time around this track in time trial is a 29.3 at the moment, which I'll be honest, is actually quite all right by my standards, considering I haven't raced competitively in over 3 years. or at least 3 versions of the game. That's more like it. Yeah, 3 years either way. So Slayer Eyes going third, not bad at all. Next up is the one of the AlphaTauri drivers. I believe it is that of NOS Energy, the only of the AlphaTauris on track. The other Aston Martin of Spaceman starting a lap now, but we do have the Ferrari of Gonzalez coming through the line, looking to start one here. Reimer on a timed lap now. I'm quite interested to see how Reimer does here as he makes his way through turns 6, 7, and 8 now. Looks like he handled the car very well. Got to watch out for the raised curb, as you kind of saw there go to the inside. Can we go along with that AlphaTauri? You can see now this raised curb to both the inside right there and to the outside by the right tire. That raised curb will send your car around if you're not careful. I oftentimes refer to it in Jeddah as trying to do the old Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you know, good 50-50 grind over the rail, because the car will just simply bottom out and keep going straight, and a lot of these curbs at this track are just like that. Up through the worst chicane in Formula 1, at least one of them. I gave him that moniker to about 4 or 5 different track chicanes, but that's definitely in the running. Exiting turn 16 now, down the backstretch, and he's got a hell of a tow from his teammates. Anybody with any sense would have put Albon and Sargent's car. You know, I think you've got... It's a very interesting situation, because Albon is much... Here's the deal. I would have agreed with that if Albon scored points 9th or better. I think as far as the Williams as a car goes, it is not good enough to warrant one driver being legitimately that far ahead of the other. It's not as if Max Verstappen crashed his and then he'll take Sergio's car. Like, that would make sense. Okay, it's not like that. This is a car at the back end of the grid yet to score points, and I think realistically, just Albon also got gifted from 2 drivers retiring or more and still failed to score points. I think that is just a very questionable decision. Was it the correct decision logically? Absolutely, but I think that would have only made sense if the car was better. In that rant, Reimer has gone to the top spot of 127.527. Very good lap from him. Reimer, very, very good at putting together these quality attempts. Not usually for the pole position is the Mercedes driver here, and no matter what league I see in him, he's never usually on pole, but always there in the top 4, which the consistency is so key when you've got such a competitive grid, and Reimer, I think, is going to be giving a good tow to his teammate here as they make their way out of 16, and down the backstretch they go. Yeah, look at him, and I think Caesar gave him the tow the first way around, and look at this. What has Logan done in it? Emulate Nikita? Well, at least Logan got a point. Hey, and by the way, we were going to have a second season of Nikita Mazepin, and then the Russians decided to invade. So be thankful we've been spared of that, because that would have been worse than anything Logan Sargent has done. Well, I can't say that. Anyways, Reimer to the pit lane now. Caesar's actually gone 5th with the help of the tow from Reimer there, up into the top 5, both Mercedes. The top 5 in a Mercedes sandwich at the moment. Reimer at the top, Caesar 5th. In that time, who do we see coming around the line now? Gab coming into the pit lane. We've got both of the Williams drivers on timed laps here. On out laps. Lancey's going to be the next driver around, looking to start his timed attempt, making his way through 18 and 19. Again, a raised curb on the inside there. Got to be careful. Down the pit straight he goes. I'm going to open the telemetry just to get an idea of what our top speeds are at. The top speed, it's very interesting. I do think a driver like Reimer, who will typically have a car more suited for the corners, is going to be one of those that has a slower top speed, which is odd considering he's 0.5 of a second ahead of the grid right now. But that is typically how he does up his car, his setup. So I'm interested to see where he falls in the speed trap. We'll go with Lancey now. He's making his way through in towards turn 9. Well, he's hit a bit of a wall there going out of turn, turn 8? Yeah, he has, hasn't he? Well, that's exactly what he's done. He's tried to go too much to the inside of the wall, and he's clipped it. In towards turn 11, getting into what I like to refer to as the horseshoe section of the track now. I'm not going to say a useless section of the track. It is damn useless, though. Lancey about to grab pole. I tell you what, I believe in it. And Lancey, one of those drivers that we saw last week who had some of the best race pace I think I've seen out of a virtual Grand Prix driver. This guy, absolutely crazy. For the time being, he may have a little work to do on this lap. He hit the wall coming out of turn 8. Not a lot, but that sort of thing. If you make the mistake and you don't put it into the back of your head quickly enough, it does start to affect the rest of your lap. Let's see how he goes into 17 here. into the corner. Takes, well, I tell you what, bit deep into the corner has to be said as far as the apex. Sometimes you'll see drivers go a little bit more shallow through that. Across the line goes the Dutchman, only 6th. 1.2 off the pace. Reimer likes his downforce. Same with DB. I tell you what, Reimer does like his downforce. And another thing that Reimer likes, going on the off strategy. We've seen that so often from the Mercedes driver. He loves going onto the different strategy and trying to make the other drivers around him think. Typically, I'll give you the example of my previous time being an F2 driver, but as Gazboy coming around the line here shortly. My previous experience being a driver for the majority was F2. We have the driver El Majacco. I'm sure you know who he is, multi-time champion. Ridiculously quick driver in any car you put him in, as Gazboy goes 5th. 3 1,000ths ahead of GSR Caesar. Whew, close call there, by the way. Yeah, I followed him around last week. Well, you know, what's interesting is when sometimes what happens is you get drivers like Jacko and you get drivers like Lancey and whatnot who, when they get to the top of the grid, what a lot of drivers behind them will do, they'll just play copycat. Whatever strategy he does, that's what you want to go on because at least he's in view and at least he stays there. Reimer really makes the drivers around him think with the strategy. He makes me think trying to predict what he does. And, I've done over 150 various F1 casts through now 4 different leagues I commentate. I do not see many drivers anymore play with tire strategy like that guy does, and he does it well for the majority of it. I think sometimes he could go a little bit more aggressive as far as tires and trying to, gain on track position, but he does his best. He plays that strategical game all he can, and he does damn good at it. We don't talk about who must not be named. Well, I tell you what, 5.5 minutes to go in the session here. Ghost making his way through Sector 1. Again, very slippery part of the track this first sector is. I would assume when it comes to the race time, we're going to see a lot of accidents through these first couple of corners. Not because it's necessarily tricky corners, but the lack of grip. And again, if you don't have the roll bars set to their absolute stiffest, I would say, I was in the... Matter of fact, I used Race Day 2016 setup and time trial. His wings about 35, 36 apiece, really, really high in the wings. His roll bar so turned down, the car was undrivable. So I turned the wings down a little bit more understeer and then stiffened the roll bars, and that car drove like a dream. Again, that's a time trial setup, and what's interesting, I don't know if the gap is as big anymore as it used to be, but there used to be a time where you had to have a setup for both. You couldn't use your time trial setup in driving in the Grand Prix because the cars would just be so different. I don't know if it's still the case with that, but that's how it certainly used to be. Ghost down the backstretch now. Let's see what kind of top speeds he's hitting. On a timed lap here, DRS activated, is 199 miles an hour as he makes his way into the corner now. He'll peak at 212. And I've just had notifications here from DB to Best. We are restarting the room after quali for the race. Parc Ferme got left on accidentally. So qualifying coming up here, but we will have to take a momentary break to get the grid reset as Parc Ferme has been left off. People will spin on the exit of turn 3. I tell you what, I believe that as Lancey retires from the session, that being in the pit lane, thankfully, goodness me. Not very often do I see Lancey making a genuine mistake, so that one raised a couple of hairs there. Oh, no, left on. Do we not do Parc Ferme in this league? Really? Huh. Interesting. I don't mind that. I think that it's just different. Not one other league I commentate has Parc Ferme off, as there's a spin by DB to Best, and wow, well, I tell you what, paper-thin margins between himself and the wall there. TD Setups cook tires in race trim. Yeah, it's also in the settings channel. Oh, okay. Well, interestingly enough. Hey, well, I'll be honest with you. I think... skill issue. I think it's interesting when we look at Parc Ferme. It's really, I'm assuming NASCAR has that. Well, NASCAR has that. IndyCar probably has it as well. F1 having it, but I think when you have a situation like F1 where we start to get sprint races involved, I think it is just better to have it off. because the track is going to evolve and change so much over the course of the 2 races that the drivers go through. That Parc Ferme should be off in that instance. Never change setups. I run dry in the wet. You know, I never messed with that much either. I think that we do not do park. I never really messed with dry and wet setups much either. I felt as if it didn't make that much of a difference. Now, some people do genuinely make dry setups, and there was a time where I was making dry to wet and wet to dry setups as well, knowing that the track was going to react one way or another with the weather. I would make it, you know, different on purpose. 2 minutes to go in the session here. Reimer on track, making his way through, I believe this is turn 3 now. Yep, turn 3, making his way now into the sweeper of turn 6, 7, and 8 here. Current pole sitter at the moment, 127, 527. On pole as well by over 3.5 tenths to King Julian, the Alfa Romeo driver. Start on 2019, how wet and dry for every track. You know, it's very tempting when I go home Thursday afternoon. Well, people have the best car in each session. Well, I tell you what, that's the way it should be. I don't blame you there. Don't think it's this big difference with the new regs. That's probably the case. Oh, what was I going to say? I forgot already. Reimer down the backstretch now, exiting turn 16. He's got a bit of a tow from the AlphaTauri ahead of that, the AlphaTauri. Well, King Julian being in second, I remember now. That Alfa Romeo team does need the points. That'll be good starting position for him if he can make it happen. Final mid of the qualifying session. Reimer into 17, led by the AlphaTauri ahead. That being, I believe, it's either Tin Man the Rowdy or NOS Energy. It's going to be that of NOS Energy. Reimer 127. 426, improves by only a tenth, but when you consider the fact that the drivers behind him, King Julian and V in the Aston Martin, as well as DB the Best in that matter, 5 to 6 tenths of a second away from the top spot, I mean, that is a ridiculously good time to be had there. Making the way around to the line now is the Mercedes of Caesar. He's improved by 2.5 tenths to the 6th spot, leaps over Gazboy, now within 8.5 tenths, 2 tenths of a second behind Showtime. For that 5th spot. Coming to the line now, one of the Aston Martins. It is going to be V. Let's see what he's got here. 10 seconds remaining in the sessions. One of the Alfa Romeos coming around the line now. Oh, Julian's invalidated. He's not going to have enough time. Julian is out. King Julian out of qualifying here. Well, not out, but the time has expired. He is not going to be able to put together one more lap. And he had invalidated that previous attempt. That was the McLaren of Jacob, who's gone 6th. He's separated Showtime and Caesar there. A bit of a slip exiting the final corner for Showtime. Not looking to be an improvement here. No, he's slower by 6 seconds there. No improvement to be had. Oh, this is interesting. V, and who is that to the inside? The AlphaTauri of Anime Boy. Something has happened between those two. And suddenly... V has decided to back out of that timed attempt. Slayer Eyes has retired. We've got one of the Alfa Romeo drivers. It's Funky Breezy, as Lancey retiring now as well. Funky Breezy making his way up through the chicane now. Next driver of that trying to potentially get pole is that of Funky Breezy, but I don't believe he's on a flyer here. No, he's slower by 8 seconds there, unfortunate for him. So that's going to do it for qualifying. The Mercedes of Reimer on pole here, 4 tenths of a second quicker than that of the Haas of DJE Flat, who made his way up there on that final attempt. It's interesting that Caesar's got a Red Bull helmet on as a Mercedes driver. Oh, how I wish there was a proper livery editor in this game. Every day I pray to the pay-to-win EA Sports gods of trying to put in a livery editor to this game, but I guess it's probably too much to ask for. All I really want now is a completed game, and we can't have that. So your starting grid then for the Miami Grand Prix goes like this: Reimer on pole by 4/10 of a second over over DJE flat in the Haas. King Julian third, V fourth, DB the best fifth, Showtime sixth, Jacob seventh, Caesar eighth. Bit of a differential there between. The two Mercedes driver. It's a fifth row lockout then for the Williams driver. Gasboy and Lancey ninth and 10th. Funky Breezy 11th. Slayer Eyes 12th. Ghost 13th. Gonzalez 14th. Gab 15th. Tin Man, Spaceman, Energy, and Zach and Anime Boy. Zach and Anime Boy, neither of them getting the opportunity to put together time to temps. We'll be back shortly. We have to kind of restart the lobby here in order to turn Park Ferme off. So we'll be back in just a little bit. Reimer on pole. Let's see what he's got. And I assume we're just going to be leaving this session for the most part here. Yeah, I'll probably just leave the session on. Oh, am I getting the thing where I can't leave the little odd? I don't have a button to leave the session. This is not good. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Slayer Eyes. Appreciate that. Can I join it now? That'd be helpful. I'm getting pinged in CCRL. What's going on here? Oh, I don't know. I do not belong to the pro tier in CCRL. I don't know why I'm getting pings for that, but that's all right. Well, you've seen the qualifying session. Now's a good time to put together your race predictions. While you've got a second, feel free to drop a like, comment who you think's going to win, subscribe. I mean, I don't really care, but, do your thing. Whatever you please. Looks like the grid getting reorganized here. We should be good to go shortly. Hopefully. Gabago. What's this here? Ooh. Quickly Racing Containment Seat. 300. 17-inch. Ooh, that sounds good. I need that. Oh, looks as if we've got all 19 back, just probably setting the grid. Don't know if formation lap will be on, but anybody see the news going on about Shohei Ohtani? Goodness me. What a turn of events that is. It's like formation lap is on for now. Good, 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 good. I like formation lap. Better to have. I think when formation lap is turned off, it really does get drivers in kind of a weird position. Matter of fact, I think the last time I commentated a race at Miami was the CCRL race, and I don't think Reimer knew. One of the last races I saw Reimer in, he didn't know that the formation lap was turned off, and he got off to just such a poor start, but then immediately came back through and I think did quite well in that Grand Prix. Yeah, I think it was CCRL. Yeah, it's either that or I did. Hang on a minute. Did I commentate a Miami race yesterday? I think I did. Oh no, it was Monaco yesterday. Miami was not in that league. Elite tier calendar. Yeah, it was this past week, the 20th, the last Wednesday. I did a race in Miami. That's probably what I'm thinking about there. Sometimes I do get confused with the amount of schedules I have to know. That may have been one of the instances just then. Speaking of schedules, let's take a look at the remaining calendar here for this second season of the Monkey Mafia Esports League. We go to Imola next week on April 1st. April Fool's Day, we're actually going to Italy. We're going to Monza. No, that's just not even true. We are actually going to Imola. Baku the round after that on April 8th, and then Qatar the next three, followed by Vegas and Netherlands the next five. Interesting little mix of the next few tracks. We've got a couple of tracks that would, I think, very much fit into the old-style kind of circuit with Imola, and I would also kind of argue Qatar in that as well. Not a lot of as much as Qatar is like a new circuit, right? It's not the oldest track out of those. You know, it's been used a lot, new for F1, but a very old-style circuit. Not a lot of overtaking zones necessarily. It's quick. The one DRS zone of the track, Baku, which I'm a little bit surprised is still on the schedule. That track is borderline undrivable in this game, has to be said. Every league. Yes, you're correct. I thought Formation Lap was on in Miami. Yeah, well, I tell you what, it was again. It's difficult when you're in multiple leagues, such as yourself and such as myself as well, having to remember which leagues do formation laps and not. Matter of fact, Division 2 of Midwest didn't do formation lap until the beginning of this last season. It I don't know. Formation lap has been bugged so many times in this game. It puzzles me. It puzzles me really. I don't know who we're waiting for here. In the race chat, I've got pinged. Anyone else need to invite? Lancia Haas. Lancia needs an invite. Can't see Lancia online. Lancia's in. Game just crashed. By who is saying that? Who is Exotic Milk? I don't know. Gazboy crashed. Oh, okay. So just waiting for Gazboy then, and then we'll have the grid probably set up, and we'll be good to go. Full 20 on a grid is good to see as well. If you're a longtime viewer of the Midwest, like me, you'll know that there was times when we had 7 20-driver grids, and now we'll kind of get lucky to get 2 divisions full of 20, and then 3 and 4 over 15. But then again, it's nobody's fault. This game has pretty much killed league racing, has to be said. Ooh, goodness me. Never had 7 full, but damn close a couple of times. Well, I tell you what, still, 22 killed leagues. I think 22 was kind of when I don't know, because 22 wasn't like okay, 22 was bad, but it was not a dumpster fire compared to this game. It was nowhere near as glitchy and just awful. 22 was rough with how the driving works. I feel like 22, and I'll give some sympathy to to the developers as well. They just didn't know how cars would react, how the new generation of cars existed. They had no data to go off of, so of course that's going to be difficult. And but still, I mean, 22 was not very good. 23 has been. Well, I will say I've seen a lot of good racing in 23. I have not seen people resort back to this game like they were in 21 and 20, which is upsetting because having played those early versions of the game, now mind you, that was like the first killed 3 divisions. Facts. Considering that those were like the first, real F1 games that I played. I mean, I had one for the PS2, but I didn't play it really. Considering those are the first 2 games I played, I mean, I thought it was difficult then. This is wildly different and difficult compared to what the drivers used to be doing. Again, as I've said before, it's at the same time it's easier to overtake, but it's also more difficult because remember in 21, you could be within 3/10 of a second of the driver ahead and really have an opportunity to overtake. Now, unless you're right next to somebody, you're not going to get that chance. So it's a different beast to try to tackle. That's for sure. But just a little bit here, and we'll be in the what do you call it? We shall be ready to go. Looks a clear enough day here at Miami for the time being, which is always good. I do like a clear race every now and again. Well, I tell you what, if I do eventually get a PC, I think iRacing will have to become the priority. I don't have $1,300 to spend on the PC. I'm sorry. It's just the bottom line. Oh, Gazboy's left the session again. That's not good. I don't believe I have him friended. I hope somebody is able to invite him. So we'll have at least 19 drivers on the grid. Gazboy makes it back. We'll have the full 20 here for the 4th round of the season. Reminder, next week, day after Easter, we head to the, what's the name of the circuit again? Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari in Imola. One of the most infamous circuits on the F1 calendar. As I'm sure you're all aware of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna, God rest their souls, and early Rubens Barrichello as well. But just waiting on, I think, Gazboy to rejoin if he hasn't already. But see, this is going to be a problem here with Gazboy, is that if he leaves like this, what's rough is that when you get kicked out of a session like that, and we're in the setup screen like this, even if you rejoin your car, like you won't be able to rejoin your car until the formation lap begins. So whatever setup he has is just there. He won't be able to mess with tire strategies. He won't be able to do anything. So it'll be very difficult here for Gazboy to get back in and actually be slightly competitive now that he's not going to be able to mess around with tire strategy. Oh, God, not this again. Put a baton in your pocket, or you just happy to... Sorry. I've never once watched The Rookie, but I love that. Just waiting to get back going here. Gazboy is, I think, either lagged out or crashed out of the session once more. We're trying to get him back in. And after that, we should be ready to go on our formation lap here. Thank you all for joining. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to. You don't have to. Be sure to drop your race predictions in the chat, because I tell you what, we've got a lot of quick drivers out there tonight. That's for sure. And we're at a track which breeds mistakes. It's designed and it's designed to breed mistakes, and it's designed to try to breed overtakes as well. So when you get a lot of cars in close quarters like that, anything can happen. The formation lap underway now. Reimer will lead them away here. Now, who wants to bet Reimer's going to start the race on the hards? Wow, he's actually chosen the softs. Well, I told you that he was going to start on the weird strategy. I thought he was going to go with the overcut strategy. No, he's taking the fast set of tires off the start here. DJE flat to his immediate surroundings will be on the mediums. King Julian takes the hards. Very diverse grid as far as tire strategy is concerned here. 5 drivers taking the softs. What is that? 2, 4... 6, 7 drivers taking the mediums, and the rest being on the hards. So, again, very diverse grid as far as tire strategy is concerned, and that is really good to see. Another thing that the 2022 game killed as well is being able to have all the different tire strategies at your disposal. Remember the old quali rules where you could have where you basically had to qualify in the mediums because you had to start on your race, you had to start on the quali tire or whatever you had in Q2. Well, I miss that a lot. 14 to 19 is going to be the predicted strategy for medium to hard. Do we get another look? Soft, medium, medium was something around there. Let's see. It'll come back on my screen here in a second. 9 to 14 for the soft tires. So those softs are not really going to last all that long. But if an early safety car happens here for Reimer, he will definitely have the good opportunity to come in a bit for the hards. Those in the mediums will have to wait a little bit. I don't want to say the medium tires are at the disadvantage here, but it almost kind of seems like that, considering that when you have the opportunity to be on the fast tires and, when the early safety car does happen, you'll take the hit for now and you'll head to the back of the grid once you pit for the hard tires, but at least you'll have your stop out of the way. Those on the hard tires, kind of the same thing on the opposite end. They'll start, they'll be good for the first pit stop, they'll float to the top of the grid, see if they can get any sort of advantage, and they'll be fine. Those in the medium right now, well, a little bit. Kind of in the middle of that, and they won't have an advantage if this many different strategies are in play. That is a big problem for these drivers in the medium tires. But Reimer is going to line up in his grid box here on the outside, heading into turn 1, which will mean he will pretty much have, let's see, have the outside through 1, inside through 2, outside through 3 again. I'm assuming he's probably going to be ahead of him by then. But again, Reimer not necessarily known for his quick starts. That's one thing that I think Reimer needs to work on a little bit, is just getting off the line well. Not really one of the best drivers in getting away from the line here, but the light's going to be turning on now. Reimer has DJE flat to his inside. Remember, he was 4/10 clear of the rest of the grid in qualifying. The light's turning on now, 4 and eventually 5, and for the 4th time this season, they are off. And as they head down to the first corner at Miami, Reimer does get away well. DJE flat did not get off to that good of a start. He's immediately overtaken around the outside of King Julian as they try to make their way through turn 2. It's 3 abreast back there between the Alpine, the Aston Martin, and the Mercedes, and somehow they've made it out okay. The 2 Williams drivers inverting positions, and somehow I think Gasboy may have made a bit of a mistake there. He's losing positions left and right. Lancey round the outside of Caesar going in towards turn 5. Good overtake for him, and as they get off the start, it looks as if Reimer has gotten away well enough to at least be safe for now. Down the backstretch they go, and it looks as if Funky Breezy is maybe getting overtaken here. Lots of contact with Anime Boy to the side. Lots of contact again. It's a huge jumble, a gaggle of cars, as Martin Brundle would call it, as they make their way. That's a bit of front wing flying from somebody. I'm not rightly sure who. Up the grid they go. Lancey wanted to have a look around Caesar, getting into the horseshoe. Not quite enough real estate to be had. P12 all the way down to P19 within just a second or two of each other here. It's a massive jumble of cars through the tight and twisty Sector 2 of this track. I mean, this is unbelievable to try to be this close to each other off the start here. As Reimer leads them down the backstretch now, you can see he tried to swerve a little bit there to break the toe. DJE flat in pursuit, but not close enough. He's actually more under pressure from that of King Julian as they head towards turn 17. Not really looking like any dives are going to be made here unless you're Lancey. Well, he had a little bit of a look to Caesar there, not quite close enough. enough. There it looked as if the AlphaTauri of Tin Man tried to defend from Slayer Eyes behind. Slayer Eyes now, Funky Breezy behind, nearly had a look there, but again, not quite close enough as the grid makes their way into turn 2 now for the second time. Reimer leads by 0.8 of a second over DJ E Flat. He's on the soft tires. It's done quite well in the beginning here. Anime Boy on his way in. Perhaps it was the Alpine whose bit of front wing that we saw have a bit of a off there coming out of turn, turn 9 is when we saw that happen. Showtime within 0.2 of a second of DB to Best here. Showtime being one of the drivers on the soft tires. DB to Best ahead on the mediums. So Showtime will have the advantage for now. Tries the left side over the Red Bull. No DRS. Not according to real life as well. Remember, this season in real life, you'll have DRS activated after the first lap. They'll have to wait until lap 3 still in this game. As you can see, V and the Aston Martin, well, down to the inside of Caesar into 11. And I think maybe just did he push Caesar a little bit off the track there going in towards turn 11. It was very close. I was thinking maybe, now that I look at the screen side by side, there was definitely contact there on the way into the corner. So maybe do we have a look at a steward report already here in the early goings. But I think Caesar, having not had any damage, might let that one slide. And plus he's on the soft tires and still in a good spot, not really under pressure from Lancey behind. And that's just because Lancey being on the hard tires, not going to have the opportunity for the time being, but never doubt the pace of the Flying Dutchman here. Showtime around the outside of Julian as they head to the line, and the Alpine will have the third spot now. Very nicely done as King Julian in the hards starting to fall back here just a little bit. He's lost the position to Showtime. Showtime up 3 spots as well. Good for him already. Now under pressure from DB to Best behind. Remember, they'll have DRS exiting turn 9. Making their way through the initial sweepers of 5, 6, 7, and eventually turn 8 after that. As, Lancey leaving the session now. Ooh, not good for him as we have a yellow flag. Ghost is off, and we have a virtual safety car. Yes, we do. The Red Bull losing the entirety of the front wing. That is off. Wow, and that is right in the racing line as well. So a little surprised the game hasn't deployed the full safety car. That is going through turn 6 and 7 there. Terrible spot to have the front wing come off, but at least he's, out of the way of the majority of the grid. So virtual safety car on track here. The first slowage of the day so far. Lancey, as you can see, ghosted as that driver's temporarily left the session. And I believe we had another driver, I think it was Gazboy again, also invisible here. So the pair of the Williams drivers, unfortunately, leaving or crashing out or lagging out of the session here in the early goings. DRS enabled now. It'll be the first taste of DRS that these drivers have so far today. Here's the Mercedes, but more importantly ahead, the Aston Martin of V down to the inside. Oh, and that was a lot of contact from DB to Best into the back end of Julian. And, V is going to have to push his way into the inside there. Nearly got Julian into the barriers, but DB to Best into the pit lane, as you can see. He took a hefty rear ender there to the Alfa Romeo, and into the pit lane goes both him and Caesar. I'm assuming a front wing to be replaced here. No, it doesn't appear that it will. It's just going to be hard tires for DB to Best. It will be a front wing change for Caesar on his way in, but the two Red Bull drivers being relegated to P16 and 18 at the moment, with Ghost crashing, bringing out the virtual safety car, and now his teammate pitting early here. Red Bull, remember, I believe atop the constructor standings as well coming into today. Yeah, atop the table by 10 points over AlphaTauri, so a lot of championship implications at play if they can't hold together a good result. Reimer has put 3 and nearly a half seconds back to the Haas of DJ E Flat as they're on the 4th lap of the Grand Prix early. Lancey has once again left the session. Unfortunate for him, having some connection issues, it seems. 0.9 of a second between V and Showtime ahead. Although now it looks as if they've gone outside of that window. Closest battle on track. Oh, it's Gab around to the inside of Zach, and will get the spot onto the way into the horseshoe. Gonzalez now within a couple of tenths of Funky Breezy. This is making their way into turn 16, and down the backstretch they go. Tin Man the Rowdy leads the charge here. He's not within DRS range. Actually, matter of fact, is within DRS range to Gazboy ahead. So that's going to help the Alfa Romeo in question. But now, to the outside. No, maybe Tin Man didn't have DRS. He has been overtaken there by Funky. I thought initially he was within a second of the Ghosted Williams ahead. That wasn't the case. And so, Tin Man has been relegated to P10. Now down to the inside is Gonzalez, to the left side, I should say. Across the line they go. Gonzalez nearly had a look at Tin Man there going through down the backstretch. Wasn't the case. We do now have, I believe, is that Lancey losing the spot, as well as we just had the AlphaTauri of NOS Energy losing some spots. Zach and Gab side by side now going through the first couple of corners, and Gab has made his way around the McLaren. Nicely done. Showtime now within 0.5 of a second of DJE flat as they make their way out of turn 9, turn 10 now. DRS going to be in play. The soft tires still appearing to be the best tire on the grid. Reimers put 3.5 seconds back to DJ, and Showtime down to the inside, and now we have two drivers on the softs atop the grid here. Lancey getting around Jacob, that being for the 6th spot on the way into the horseshoe. DJ will have to hold on here. They'll have the activation point on the way out of turn 16 coming up here. And it looks as if both of these drivers are going to get DRS to each other, although I don't believe they're going to be close enough to make a move. We'll catch on with that one in a little bit. Jacob, 0.3 of a second behind to Lancey as down the backstretch they go. A little bit further back, Funky Breezy, well, that's on the Ghosted Williams of Gazboy. Here goes Jacob, trying to look for the inside here on Lancey. Had a little bit of a peek, not enough room to make it happen. Funky Breezy getting through Gazboy there. Out of the final couple of corners here, Lancey only 0.4 of a second ahead of Jacob, and it looks as if Jacob is not going to be able to pressure at the moment. The battle now for the 2nd spot. Showtime atop this little battle here between himself, Flat, and V. And that the Showtime being on the soft tires for the time being has some good pace. Whether or not it stays that way is going to be the big question. I would doubt that the soft tires would remain the meta tire anywhere past this 6 or 7 lap mark. So we'll have to wait and see. But for the time being, Showtime will lead this little group through DRS. We've got the Haas of Slayerized around. That's going through turn 5. Luckily doesn't hit anything and gets himself back on track, which stays green. On the way into the horseshoe here, DJ got within a couple of tenths of Showtime. Not quite close enough to make an overtake happen. But for the time being, as they make their way through the chicane, still no drivers to pick up time penalties as well. That chicane will definitely do it to you if you get it even slightly wrong. Down the back straight they go. I would assume Showtime's going to be in a little trouble here, especially maybe DJ. Now that I see it, DJ is behind by 0.9 of a second. V's seriously closing in on the Haas here as they make their way down the back stretch and in towards 17. And no, not quite close enough to make the move. A little bit further back, does Gonzalez have it on Tin Man? To the inside he goes, and that looks like it's going to be an easy one there for Gonzalez. Nicely done. Tin Man having a little bit of a look to the inside, just for gits and shiggles, I suppose. Battle for the 2nd spot once more. Now we've seen, I don't want to say aggression from V already, but he's not afraid to get the elbows out, this guy, and he's already trying to make some moves here. Tin Man is actually going to re-overtake Gonzalez going through the first couple of corners. Slayerized picking up 5 seconds of penalty for speeding to the pit lane. Unfortunate for him, as we're about midway through the 7th lap of the Grand Prix here. DJ has lost DRS to the back end of Showtime here. The soft tires still doing well. So now DJ is going to be kind of under pressure from V here shortly. As in through turn 11 they go. 4.5 of a second the gap. Not quite close enough. I don't expect many moves to be made here, but down to the inside of Gonzalez. I should say through sector 2. In through turn 11. Bold place to try to make a move. Into the horseshoe. Gonzalez has the outside. And for the time... Oh, that was a contact there. Yep. I think Gonzalez tried to switch to the other side and maybe just got into the back end of Tin Man. As I look along here, yep, Gonzalez, I think, wanted the inside. That building obstructed the view. Great camera angle there, EA. So we kind of missed that one. But Gonzalez will have another shot here. Down the back straight they go. What is he trying to do? He's going to look to the inside. Tin Man's not going to have DRS. I tell you what, if this is what I'm seeing for Gonzalez, we're going to be seeing these soft tires kind of... Oh, big degradation there. Big spin. And 2 drivers into the wall that time. As I look on with the replay there, I think it was just pure error from Gonzalez getting oversteer on the exit of 17. Unfortunately, collects the AlphaTauri in question. Yeah, unfortunate there. No wing damage, it looks, for Tin Man. On the way into the pit lane is Gonzalez. I'm assuming wing damage for him. Zach gets around Gab going through turn 2. Very unfortunate incident there from Gonzalez. I think just pure error as well. Nothing warranting a penalty. Front wing going on here for the Ferrari. That's unfortunate for him, but that's what needs to be done. What I was going to say is that if that was the case, we're going to be seeing the soft tires, we're seeing them degrade probably a lot, and this is where the crossover point's probably going to start to be, although saying that, we do see now. Well, it's interesting because DJ is within 0.6 of a second on Showtime. V is actually kind of fallen out of this battle here as they make their way down the backstretch. I'm not sure V is going to be actually within DRS range. At the detection zone, I think he may have been just outside of it, but the DRS turns on. For the time being, Reimer still has a 4.2 second lead over Showtime for the top spot. The two medium drivers, as they try to battle each other here, are only hurting themselves as far as, you know, trying to make some gains and trying to get closer to Reimer here. It's not really helping that these two are battling. Perhaps they should try to be working together a little bit more. In towards 17, Gab was only a couple of tenths outside of Zach there. Zach has just hit the wall coming out of 17. Gab may have a look down into the first corner here if he gets a good enough run. No, he's not quite going to be close enough. He'll have a peek anyways, but that's more or less just to maybe force Zach into a mistake, which Zach has gone deep into turn 1. Gab is right there. Let's see if the Ferrari can have anything. Tell you what, Zach looks like going deep into a couple of these corners here, probably trying to extend the braking zone as we have a DNF. It's Anime Boy going through, exiting 17, the first safety car of the day, as he exits the corner. Bit similar to what we saw Gonzalez go through just a lap ago, and that car was off to the inside of the barriers just about there. And that is our first safety car of the day, virtual safety car on lap, lap 3. And here we are. So again, though, that's really going to help Reimer because now he can go to the hard tires. He's not going to be comfortable. I don't think he can make it the whole way on the hard tires, but if you're one of the drivers going from medium to hard, it is still probably too early to really go from the medium tires onto the hards here. We'll probably see it happen. What we could see is Reimer go to the mediums here and try to go a soft, medium, soft, assuming another safety car comes out. Again, Reimer loves to mess with strategies, and I'm fully expecting an interesting one here. As out of 17 he goes, and Reimer finally, it's a very late decision from the Mercedes there. In fact, doesn't even really commit to the pit lane until it's nearly forked off to the right side there. Into the pit lane goes Reimer. What does he decide to do? And those are hard tires there for Reimer. Into the pits as well came DJ, who's gone to the hards. We've had Lancey coming in now. Started on the hards, now onto the mediums. Let's see, we've had the top 4 go to the hards. Julian, Jacob, Lancey go to the mediums, as well as Funky Breezy. Ooh, Funky Breezy, yep, doing hard to medium there, yep, not bad. So, Gazboy coming in now, hard tires for him. So, as the top 10 pits, 4 take the medium tires. The other 6 taking the hards. As to the rest of the grid comes in here, I'm assuming. I'm actually a little bit surprised we're seeing this many takers of both medium and hard tires. Matter of fact, I would argue that those on the hards are the minority here. 9 driver on the hards, the other 10 on the mediums. But an even split, though. You like to see that. A lot of strategy still in play here. 10 laps complete. Sorry, this is the 10th lap. Dude, I know, Reimer. It's Valentine. It's ridiculous, isn't it? This has been one of the most strategically diverse races I have seen in a long time. This is, honestly, we had, what was it, 5 start in the softs, 10 start in the mediums, the others start in the hards. I mean, out of the 20, that's ridiculous. Or something like that. It was ridiculous. But we had pretty much almost, not an even split between the 3 compounds, but it was pretty good. All 3 compounds being used at the start of the Grand Prix here. And it has been an interesting one so far. And again, I think it might still be too early for those who stopped on the mediums to go to the hards. I think they may have had enough left in the tank. Those on the softs, like Reimer and Showtime, definitely needed to pit to the hards there, and they've done that. I'm just wondering what the delta is between the 2 compounds of tires here. I'm assuming they were pretty even. Now, we didn't have many drivers at the end of that run on the hard tires. A couple had pit during that time, and, well, I'm assuming the delta isn't too big to make all that much of a difference, especially if you're King Julian right now. 5th place looks pretty good. You got 4 drivers still ahead of you, 4 of the quickest drivers on the grid so far today. Matter of fact, the quickest drivers on the grid so far. Probably around 0.4 of a second. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm just wondering, I mean, again, if... And you see, this is the thing, though. When you pit under safety car, of course it is a free pit stop, and that's all fine and dandy. If you don't take the advantage, if you don't get off to a good enough start and overtake some of these guys in the hards and make your way up to, say, 3rd or 2nd, your advantage is just not going to, it's not going to be present. You know, you need to have the advantage there. That's a lot of the reason we don't see many drivers start on the softs anymore. It's just they can't find the ability to make the softs work in their favor, make the, temporary advantage work in their favor. I'm assuming the safety car is going to be into the end of this lap. It's only been out for, what, a lap, 2 laps now? Uh-oh. Well, that's an odd message. Not enough available storage space to record a video clip. Well, we're going off of Jesus now. That's the part. As the hard recording has failed, but at least we've got this one. So, top 4 pit for hards. Rest of the top 8 pit for mediums. The other 2 pit for hards as well. Reimer in a good spot, had about a 4-second lead over Showtime by when the safety car had come out. His pace has been on fire today, but now on the harder compounds, less grip. Let's see if it's any handicap to the Mercedes driver here. As they exit 17, about to start the 12th lap of the Grand Prix, getting closer to halfway through here. Reimer get them back to green flag as a 0.6 of a second advantage over Showtime here in the early goings. V a little bit further behind, and again, here's Julian. Now, this is what I was just talking about here. Julian has not gotten off to a good enough start here to warrant going on the medium tires and claiming it as a good enough advantage. The invisible Williams of Gasboy losing a couple of spots there, as you pretty much would have expected. Reimer now under pressure from Showtime. Showtime has not been close enough to pressure Reimer much of today's Grand Prix, and here he is now within 3.5 of a second here. I think Showtime might have just a pace advantage. Let's see. I'll turn on the top speed. Yeah, I tell you what, Reimer's slower by about 2 miles an hour, 2 to 3 miles an hour here, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that is definitely an advantage to be had. V down to the inside. He really went for the dive there on DJ. DJ's going to have to strike back the long way around, going through the horseshoe. Look at him try to use the outside line like a NASCAR driver, and while he was able to stay ahead of Julian, V was a great move from him, and again, we've seen that Aston Martin time and time again today. He is not afraid of getting the elbows out and making something happen. He's done that there, up to the 3rd spot. That Aston Martin now in the podium positions. Down the back straight they go. It looks now King Julian down to the inside of DJ. That now for the 4th spot. So the mediums for the time being, I would assume, the better tire, although Lancey to the inside of Jacob. Well, this is a medium on medium fight here. Williams getting the 6th spot. Jacob's still close enough behind. If Lancey gets held up by DJ here going through the 1st sector, I think Jacob could have a fair opportunity to strike back. If he's able to hold on at DRS range. Caesar having a look to the inside of Zach, not quite close enough as they snake their way through the 1st sector. Reimer now 2.5 ahead of Showtime as they make their way now. I tell you what, Reimer is definitely struggling through this 1st sector here. Showtime has been able to keep it within about 0.3 of a second since the off of the safety car here. Down the straight they go, exiting turn 9 now. Sorry, that's turn 10 at that point. Down the DRS section they go. V looks on, hoping that one of the two drivers makes a mistake ahead. V, should that mistake be made, will definitely look to make the spot. There he goes, looking for the outside. Showtime had to check up. He was parked in behind Reimer on the way into the braking zone. V nearly had a look to the inside. As a matter of fact, he's under a lot of pressure now from Julian as the driver on the medium tires looking to get that spot. Miami just eats the hard tires. That definitely appears to be the case, as for the time being, those in the hards not really getting away well enough, but at the same time, Julian, for now, has not really gotten around that many cars here. He's gotten around DJ, and I think he's only made up a couple of spots here. Realistically, I mean, yeah, he's only made the one spot around DJ. Is down to the inside. DJ, oh, that's a lot of contact with Lancey there, has to be said. Well, Lancey holds the spot, as Lancey, I think, tried to send it around the outside. Yes, he did. It was a fair effort from the Dutchman. And he's made the spot after all. A little bit further behind, we'll look on here with Caesar again. Now he's really close to Gab this time. He's going to look to the inside through turn one. He'll really have to break the Ferrari here. Ferrari actually goes deep into the corner. Zach in behind. Zach nearly had a look at the spot there. And Caesar will make the move through turns 1 and 2. Very nicely done for the Mercedes, up to 9th. Don't look now, though, but that's a 6.5-second gap between 9th and 8th at the moment. Gab here within a couple of tenths of a second leads Zach, and they're going to have DRS this time as well. So a lot of moves to be made here. We'll check in with the top end of the grid. Reimer only 0.4 of a second ahead of Showtime. And again, Reimer, one of those drivers that loves adding downforce to the car, so he may be at a disadvantage. Whoa, look at V behind, nearly got into the back end of the Alpine, very deep into the braking zone to turn 11. Through the horseshoe they go. King Julian all over the rear wing of the Aston Martin here, although I'm pretty sure Julian may be looking at picking up track limits penalties at some point. DJ does that. Jacob did it not long ago. I think Julian might be up next. We saw it a couple times already where he's gone too much over the apex curb through the chicane. To the inside now looks Showtime, and it looks as if he's going to have this one well before the braking zone. Well, I tell you what, I say well before the braking zone. Kind of only just there. Good move from Showtime. Takes the lead to the Grand Prix. Oh, and Showtime has lost the car. Yes, he has. Reimer having to take evasive action there. I think that was just pure oversteer coming out of 17. Now, that's where his teammate of Anime Boy had crashed the car, which brought out the safety car initially. Julian will get around Showtime as well. I think just pure error there from Showtime exiting turn 17, unless was there contact with Reimer that I didn't see, which could be the case. But Showtime going down to 4th. So a short-lived top spot run. For the time being, Reimer still maintains Grand Slam conditions here, as long as he has the fastest lap, which he does. So now that King Julian's on the 3rd spot, does he have the opportunity to try to close in here? He's going to have to try the outside. Reimer in a bit of a hole here. He's got V behind. V's looking to the inside. He's going to really have to dive to try to make his way around the Mercedes here. King Julian looking on, hoping that these two drivers push up the track. V will. So Julian will try the inside. Not going to have it. They're going to be side by side as they head towards the chicane. Reimer will back out smartly. So Reimer will have DRS exiting turn 16. That may help the Mercedes here. But V, the new leader in the Aston Martin, a lot of oversteer there for Julian as they exit the corner. DRS going to be activated here. Reimer very slow, getting out of turn 16, has DRS, but will nearly lose the spot to King Julian. A little bit further behind, Funky Breezy getting around Jacob around the outside. Into the 3rd corner they go. Sorry, 17th corner they go. Julian, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. V will lead the lap, ending Reimer's Grand Slam hopes there. I'm wondering where the Alfa Romeo had actually gone off track to pick up the penalty. And oh, he's gone way close to the wall on the outside. He's tried to use all the track he could. Somehow he didn't hit the wall, but he has gone off track and has picked up his 3-second penalty, which I predicted was going to be soon, but in a very odd way. So Showtime getting around Lancey there. Lancey on the medium tires as well. The drivers on the medium tires about 6 laps old now, so still I would think better than the hards, but we're going to see that crossover point, I would think, soon enough. We go to the penalty tracker now. 3 drivers on 3-second penalties, that being Julian, Jacob, and Flat. So Reimer now, that car looking like it's slightly struggling, not even have DRS here. Down the back straight, well, not even the back straight, in towards turn 11. Reimer again, one of those drivers that likes to have his extended amount of downforce. Excuse me 1 second, my mother's calling me. Sorry about that. Yep, my mic was away from my face there. If I just missed it, I had gone on my mother had called me, so I flipped the microphone away from my head and muted it. I've only just fixed it now. That's probably better. Appreciate the shout there, though. I would have completely had forgotten that if you didn't say anything. As we look now, Clancy in kind of a tough position here, as Showtime all over the back end here. Reimer that time in towards turn 17. I kind of thought he was going to be a little bit more aggressive. He chose not to be, which Reimer is one of those drivers that really does have a lot of patience, as we do see the Haas now of DJE Flat, who is replacing a front wing, as well as Gonzalez in as well, so a couple of front wing changes needing to be made there. Making their way with turn 9 DRS now. Lancey making his way. Lancey within a tenth and a half here of Julian. Let's see, is he going to have the move? No, not quite. Oh, he may send it. Well, I tell you what, that would have been bold. Funky Breezy getting down the inside of Jacob. Well, I tell you what, I usually watch it with muted. I happen to have my headphones in. Yeah, well, you know. Almost video. I mean, that's fair. I mean, let me tell you something. I usually have YouTube going on in the background all day long, and, you know, it does happen to be Gordon Ramsay and any of the Kitchen Nightmares, which are free on YouTube, by the way, and so I watch those a lot, and I don't typically like having F-bombs just dropped randomly like that. Reimer trying it around the outside. Nearly had it on V there as they exit turn 17 through 18 and 19 now. Reimer and Cody that time was more aggressive. Now looks to the outside. This is going to be a bold one here through turn 1, but Reimer's going to get it, I think. Yes, he will. Good move from Reimer, retaking the lead of the Grand Prix. Dude, check out Cutthroat Kitchen. I have been looking to do that. I've also been looking to do that. As Julian's gone quite wide there. I tell you what, going through turn 3, that car was well wide of the racing line. Contact with V, slides, and that's gonna have to be a front wing replace there. Yeah, there you can see the end plate missing on the left front side. Maybe besides nailed it, but amazing. I tell you what, that's the one I want to see, and I also want to see. What is it, like America's Worst Cooks or something like that? We're on the cooking show with just being terrible. I always watch the highlights of that. It's funny as hell. The woman's trying to cut things with the knife guard on, cutting with the dull side of the knife. Julian getting around Jacob there as they make their way. Now Julian again. Now, which was interesting because Julian had actually gotten around Jacob and then having to cede position there to Funky Breezy and Jacob as well. Remember, he has got to make the front wing change here eventually. Cutthroat Kitchen first, worth all the watches. I tell you what, might have to check that out. So Reimer now leads. Now this is interesting again, which is really weird because Reimer for the longest time there after the safety car, at least for a couple of laps, was behind V. Didn't really look as if he was closing in all that much. Funky Breezy down to the inside of Jacob into 17. Didn't really look as if he was closing in all that much. Get him in the free air. He's now outside of a second and a half already. He's only just overtaken the Aston Martin last time by. 10 laps to go here in Miami for what's been a very action-packed Grand Prix. Again, Miami being one of those tracks that I don't always get the impression that it delivers good racing in real life, but in the virtual world, very similar to Hungary for that matter, this track does, what's the word I'm looking for? This track slaps as far as on-track action. We're seeing it here again today. Jacob 2/10 of a second to Funky Breezy here as they make their way through the sweeper now of turn 6, 7, and 8. And he's going to be just within a 3/10 of a second back to the Alfa Romeo with the aid of DRS coming up next. Let's see if he's able to do anything here. But now Lancey trying the outside of V in towards 11. V's going to have to try to be later on the brakes, which he does. Switches back to the inside. Lancey will now have to try to get back around the Aston Martin once again. V has been defending aggressively but cleanly so far here today. And that driver not afraid to make some moves, and he's doing just that. Definitely going to be one more safety car. I agree with how close together this track is, or with how close together these drivers are. That may very well be the case. And, as we start getting to the situation where the tires are going to be a little bit less on the grippier side, we may see a lot more oversteer be had, and, well, after that, a lot more accidents to be had. Funky Breezy this time again, down to the inside of Jacob, gets the 5th spot, and there's the yellow flag. Who is it? And it's Spaceman, I think. Well, I think Spaceman may have had an accident there. Geez, Valentine, you almost called that one. Lancey now tries the outside of V going through the first corner, which is not a very common place to make something happen, not only just down the outside, but in that first corner in general, and, well, nearly had it. And that battle for the second spot now all three of these drivers in it, as Showtime trying to poke his head in. I would get the impression those medium tires are still pretty good for Lancey, as V is not pulling ahead. But Lancey is not necessarily closing in all that fast either. I would think very, very even on tire strategies. Whether it stays that way for too long, I'm not too sure. But now going through the turn 10 DRS section, Lancey's going to have to try the outside. V, a little bit of a wiggle there, but Lancey's going to have him before the braking zone. Does Showtime try it here into the corner? No. So for the time being, the medium's still holding water here. To the outside looks Showtime through the horseshoe. Oh, bit of a slip on the back end there. He's caught it nicely, and I think Lancey may have had that as well as they go through and in towards the chicane. The last two laps may just be painful here, but if you're Reimer at the moment, even if you pick up a 3-second penalty, you're on pace to at least stay out ahead. I tell you what, Reimer, that last time we were here in Miami and CCRL, he had a very difficult one with time penalties being involved. To the inside, looks Lancey trying to maybe cut off a little bit of room there with V as they make their way into 17. Showtime looks on, contact there between the Aston Martin and the Williams. V does get ahead. Whether or not I would call that clean, it has to be. I'll have to look at it again. Showtime getting around Lancey that time into the corner. V does push high and gets into the left front tire of Lancey. I wouldn't call that a bump and run necessarily, considering that they were pretty much side by side. Although Lancey's not going to be happy about that one, considering he's lost a spot to the Aston Martin and then to the Alpine as well. But this battle's still on here. V, who's been the driver all day, and I tell you what, now this is interesting here. Last time by, Reimer had about a 2.5-second gap ahead of these couple of drivers in question as V, oh, this is interesting, V really slowing down there. Oh, this is interesting. I'm not too sure what's going on here, but V noticeably off throttle. Lancey down to the inside now. He'll get around Favre. Funky Breezy getting around Jacob once again. Tell you what, good three-car battle heading into the horseshoe here, side by side, Lancey and Showtime. Contact there, but again, I think just pure racing, nothing negligent from Lancey. He not the guy I would expect to do that. Reimer now, well, again, the point I was going to make was that Reimer was barely outside of 2 seconds just a couple of corners ago. He's now, once again, outside of 3 seconds now. Showtime down to the inside. He's going to look to get the spot on Lancey's. V's going to try the outside now. Lancey blocks it off. V's going to try to shoot the gap and go for broke with 1,000 screaming trucks into the corner. No, and oh, I tell you what, that was a good one. Oh, I tell you what, he may still have it here. It's nearly going to be down to the inside of Showtime through turn 19. Across the line they go, and look at that. The Aston Martin has done it. And now, well, Lancey looks for it again. Oh, but he's gone way too deep into the braking zone. Unfortunate for Lancey. It was such good defending. Nearly had it. And Lancey will have to pick up this battle from the third spot once more. That's once again promoted the Aston Martin to second. Showtime still not that far behind. By the way, that battle between Funky Breezy and Jacob still happening as well. Reimer now outside of 4 seconds on the battle, which is good news for him. Still a lot of racing left here. Here comes Showtime. He's going to have to look forward here. Tries the outside. Lancey looks on without DRS to these two here. Showtime round the outside. V not afraid to break deep into the corner. Oh, does he just get into Showtime? Maybe, but not enough to really raise the alarm bells. As DJ goes the fastest lap on his soft tires. That was in the 129s, I believe. And now, as they exit 16, Lancey once again within a second of the two cars ahead. Lancey, after really making the error through the first corner, trying to send it back down to the inside, had gone off track. And now, these three cars still battling, all for the second and third spots here, all wanting to get on the podium. And I tell you what, this is shaping up to be a good one here. V within a couple of tenths of Showtime. 6 laps to go this time by. DB to best picking up a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Unfortunate for him. He's the 4th driver of the day to have that penalty attached to his name. Into the first corner they go. We'll look a little bit further back. Oh, interesting. A little battle between the Alfa Romeos here. Contact being made. And for a team that is currently the bottom of the table, you don't want to see that happen. Anyways, going through the first sector now, Lancey looks on. His medium tires might just be starting to be the not ideal tire to be on here, I think. He's not closing in enough at a rate to really believe that those tires are still even on pace. 5 laps to go next time by, 19 laps on the mediums. That's a lot to ask. I think the drivers on the hards ahead are definitely going to be better off here, although, look at this. The Alpine of Showtime to the inside. V goes around the outside, and now Lancey, V's gone deep into the braking zone, into the horseshoe, and now, once again, we've got the 3 cars battling, all within a couple of tenths here. This is outstanding stuff. V takes the lead despite going well deep into the braking zone at 11. Now, what's interesting is this. Now, I just watched that not seconds ago. I'll watch it again here as they made their way in towards the turn 11 corner. I do not know if V was, ahead at that point. I think he was, as in towards 17 they go. Showtime looking for it. Yeah, V was well ahead. That part is true. Could you, however, classify that as leaving the track and gaining an advantage? Because as he left the track, he would try to rejoin, and that would force Showtime and Lancey to try to check up. That is an interesting call there. I don't really think it warrants a penalty, but that's something they may have to look at there, if asked. Showtime now getting around the outside of V as they make their way through the first couple of corners. Lancey still looks on. Making their way through the sweepers now. Lancey doing his best, still trying to hold on to this battle here. 5 laps to go. Oh, as we have a yellow flag, its ghost is off. Valentine, well, I tell you what, if I had your Venmo, I'd buy you a beer because you are correct. The safety car on track. Oh my god, he called that shit like Verizon. Anyways, Reimer now is in a very interesting position because he is atop the grid here on the hard tires. I would still argue, as NOS Energy picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding to the pit lane. Well, 4 laps to go, so what that tells me is this. This safety car will be in and out within 1 lap. Well, hey, I tell you what, you called it anyways. That's a good enough achievement to me. Reimer here, so this is a very interesting situation. Reimer, if he pits, is suddenly at a disadvantage because we're at the point now the safety car is only going to stay out for maybe 1 lap. Reimer into the pit lane. Does Showtime and V follow suit? We'll have to wait and see. I think they're going to have to here because Reimer's still going to get out ahead of the pits anyways. It might give them 2. It just might. Maybe 2 laps to go. Reimer smartly taking the softs. Showtime, I'm assuming, taking the softs as well. Yes, he does. Lancey into the pit lane now. He'll go to the softs as well. So the top 4 on the softs. Jacob on the softs as well. Guys, 3 laps probably shootout here for the win. So 27 will mark 3 laps to go. I think it's at that point the game decides that it needs to allow us a couple of laps of racing here. I think it may. It may, hold on. As DJE flat, a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. That is unfortunate as it gets, and if he doesn't serve that, it's a 20-second penalty. Zach into the pit lane is a front wing change for the McLaren here. Oh, as a second. Oh, and DJ has decided to bin it. Retired on track the hard way. Into the barriers at 17. Well, his day is going to be done, which is unfortunate because he was looking quite promising there. Wish it would give us DRS after 1 lap already. Let's go get with them updates. That might be asking a lot from EA, but, I agree. Hey, listen, I will never complain. Matter of fact, I'm a little surprised why day/career in MMeS. I'm a little surprised at how the game cycle works that they release this game in like May or June or July as they've done. Why don't they do it at the beginning of the season so we have it for the whole year? Like, that would make sense to me. Every other sports game does that. Not one sports game aside from like the WWE games do that, where they're like in the middle of the year and they make a game. But anyways. Once again, that may be asking too much of EA, but I can hope at least. So the safety car will, to Reimer's credit again, has guessed this one as well. Not Reimer, Valentine again. That's like the fourth time I've gotten you too confused. Anyways, has guessed that one again. It will stay out for one more lap. That will provide us with 2 laps of racing, no DRS. That's the crucial part. This will be pure pace, pure adrenaline, and pure, hopefully, lack of mistakes from the top 4 here, straight to the end of the Grand Prix. Reimer in a lot of trouble, but at least he knows now that he's on the soft tires as well as everybody else on the grid, presumably. Like, we're halfway through the season. Why aren't you selling it with an F1 sub at the beginning of the season? Would be hella lucrative. Well, you're correct. And you know what also bugs me? Why do we not get the current season of F2 if we have all this time? Why do we have to have a 2-year-old season of F2? Or a year old? You know what I mean? Like, that's just bugging me. That one. Has to be said. That is stupid. But anyways. So, we will have 2 laps to go once the safety car comes in at the end of this lap. No DRS for those 2 laps either. That is a key thing to remember. Again, Reimer, a driver that has led this race, don't want to say from start to finish. He did get overtaken a couple of times at the end of the first safety car. But so you get this guy in clean air, he will dominate. But the only other time where he got overtaken was at the end of another safety car, or at the end of the first one. We saw he didn't really get away well from the driver in second place, and it was eventually overtaken from him, and then passed him back afterwards. But Reimer will need to get away well here. The rest of, well, everybody except Gasboy and Gonzalez on the soft tires. Now, I'm looking at Lancey here, and I'm also looking at V, because let me tell you something. That Aston Martin has been a very quick driver today, very aggressive as well, not afraid to get his elbows dirty. If Reimer goes a clean turn 1, he's gone. Well, I tell you what, that may be the possibility. He's not got to worry about babying the tires home anymore. You can just go clean at it on this track. Again, very little grip in that first sector, no matter what tire you're on. So I'm thinking if Reimer doesn't have those tires up to the temperature, that may be an issue. And look at him, he'll stack up the grid here in towards 17, and then they'll have to brake again on the way in. Favre was not phased by that decision, though. It's a half a second gap between the two. 2 laps to go now. As we look at this, well, I tell you what, Reimer did get away pretty well after all. 0.6 of a second on the way into turn 1. V was almost in position to overtake Showtime there. He ran a whole hard stint. He wants to move it. I tell you what, Reimer again likes to mess with the tire strategies and has done it well again today. A couple of mixing about going on in the back, but we'll stay with the top 4. As they make their way through the first sector, Lancey is not really close enough to be a player in this at the moment. 0.6 of a second behind V. I mean, not bad, but at the moment, the Williams might just be on the ropes here. Down through the DRS section they go. Remember, no DRS at all for the rest of the Grand Prix, but look how close Favre is getting at Reimer here. Remember, we estimated about 3 miles an hour quicker than the Mercedes, and now in towards 11. Well, I thought he was going to have a look there, but not quite yet. I tell you what, Valentine, you've guessed a couple of things correctly today. I'm not too sure you're going to guess this one correctly, because for the time being, Reimer has not gotten away well, and that car is worse in the straight line than arguably any of the 3 drivers behind him. As you can see, exiting 16, Reimer ducks to the inside, trying to break the toe, goes back to the outside. Lancey in pursuit now. He may get V here into 17. Matter of fact, he'll do it before 17, as V trying to get backed up to the track there. Into the corner they go. Lancey into the 3rd spot, although the Aston Martin still to the inside. Contact again. Now, that's the second time those 2 cars have had contact going through that corner. Might be something to look at, though. And now, the final lap of the Grand Prix underway. It's half a second between Reimer and Showtime. Lancey now trying the outside of V. Oh, well, I don't want to say he's kind of turned into the Aston Martin there. Oh, goodness me, this is disgusting, lads. Well, I tell you what, a great battle it was, but I'm afraid it's kind of ended on a rather shitty note that time. That was kind of not what we want to see. All fairness, when you're battling for the spot like that, the tempers will flare, and I'm afraid it's done that. Lancey is mad. Oh, I tell you what, it takes a lot to get Lancey truly mad, and I think that was probably one of the options. And let me tell you something, V, in fairness, was driving aggressively, cleanly to that point, but that was the second time we had actually saw that contact being made. So I'm thinking Yeah, I don't know. Lancey probably took it the wrong way here. But now, as they go through the chicane for the final time, it's 3.5 tenths of a second. Still, Showtime has a chance. It's not definite, but he has a chance. If Reimer doesn't get a good enough exit at a 16, oh, he might be in trouble. But 5.5 tenths of a second, Reimer down the backstretch they go. He's got a good enough gap. And I think Reimer might be okay here, unless does he make a hash of the exit out of 17. Into the corner they go. And I think Reimer, after having a dominant qualifying session, he had to work for this one again today, but he will win the Miami Grand Prix. Showtime, what an effort from him. Crosses the line second as that was the AlphaTauri of NOS Energy losing it there. V will finish third, although I think there might be steward reports on the way. Caesar fourth, Funky Breezy fifth, Jacob, despite having the penalty, gets sixth. That's a good day for him. It was Gab 7th, Tin Man 8th, Julian 9th, and Zach rounding out the top 10. But Reimer, you're winner today. Appreciate that there, Caden. It is what I'm going to school for after all, so I hope I'm doing pretty good. Well, I tell you what, I've been doing this a long time. Started in high school about 5 years ago when the tech school offered a TV broadcasting class, and I've been doing it since. So I appreciate that there. And oh, by the way, I'm doing this 4 times a week, so feel free to drop by anytime you'd like. Reimer on the top step of the podium today. Fully deserved as well. He get that car in clean air, and he was a rocket ship. That part is for sure. Valentine, appreciate it. I can always count on you to deliver the goods there. And I tell you what, I think you would have liked this race today. What I will say is this, though. Reimer, your winner here today in Miami. Showtime second, V. Remember, steward reports probably on the way for V and Lancey there after this skirmish on the final lap. But either way, on the unofficial results, V comes home third, Caesar fourth, Funky Breezy fifth, Jacob sixth, Gab seventh, Tin Man eighth, Julian ninth, 10th is Zach, 11th DB to Best, 12th is Slayer Ice, 13th Gonzalez, 14th Spaceman, Gazboy, Lancey, both finishing 15th and 16th. What was looking like going to be a great day for the Williams. Turns pretty poor, as it turns out. Unfortunately, NOS Energy and all the way back did not finish the Grand Prix. Well, a fun one that was. Update on the driver's standings. I don't have the immediate thing up. What I can tell you is this. Red Bull was 10 points ahead heading into today. I think they're going to maintain that. As far as the drivers were concerned, I think Gazboy did lead. It was DB the Best who led the standings. Caesar was second. Gab was third. As a matter of fact, Reimer was 15th in the standings heading into tonight, so that one's going to help him a lot. Unfortunately, again, these results are all going to be unofficial. Steward reports still have to be had because we might be getting a lot of them there. I did LMP with Cake, slammed into the wall at turn 1. I tell you what, that LMP is so difficult to do, man, just because I think, first of all credit to Cake and all he tries to do with that LMP div, man. It's a lot of fun, but goodness me, that game is just not a racing game. It's not. It's a very fun game, but I would view it as more of like a arcade racer. Appreciate it, Spaceman. Good effort today. See you on Thursday, hopefully. I tell you what, though. I mean, did Ryan miss some races? Seems very quick. Surprised he's not higher. Well, I tell you what, in Japan, it was coming to the final lap of the race. He was side by side with whatever Red Bull it was. That video on the channel as well. Unfortunately, crashing out of the race on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, coming out of the final corner. That was the reason why he got sent down the grid that far. Matter of fact, if I bring up the results here, I can find out for you off the top of my head. Results coming up here. So Reimer. After the first round in Hungary, Reimer finished 11th. I think he had a spin coming out of the final corner on the final lap. Out of the first corner on the final lap. Pretty sure that's what's happened there. In Japan, again, unfortunately DNFing there, as I said. Getting into it with, I believe, was DB the Best, who those two had a hell of a battle going on for the longest time. DB had quite the advantage going on to that final lap, made the mistake out of the final corner, kind of moved into the path of Reimer. Unfortunately, the Alpine didn't find to the end of the Grand Prix. PB to Best went the whole final lap with no front wing, finished third. Last time out in yeah, nope, I'm sorry. That's all I have for results for the time being. So I couldn't tell you exactly what's going on there. But yeah, Reimer, I tell you what, is one of those drivers, very, very talented. And I think he had won the title in the Jag Sunday Series. That was back a couple of weeks ago. I think sometimes gets on a streak of having bad luck, which is unfortunate for him because he's a really quick driver. But again, he races 4 different leagues. And I think so. It seems more or less bad luck so far, and that's exactly what it is. It has been total bad luck for him, and he does get into those streaks of having bad luck. He's an ultimate talented driver, one of the quickest I've seen in a good time, and he does have a couple of runs like that where it happens. But again, he's in 4 leagues, and it's tough to kind of manage all of that. I mean, it's definitely not easy to commentate on. Never mind race on. I mean, this is one of the 4 leagues I do. I do get confused, but what's good is sometimes I get the drivers that go cross like that. So Reimer, I can tell you, in the 3 other leagues he does, I mean, he's pretty consistent driver. So being here today, winning the Grand Prix, definitely helpful for him. 4 rounds, 4 different winners. It's been a great season so far. Remember, we head to Imola next week. All results in which you saw was our unofficial Astrid reports are still yet to come out. But hey, appreciate y'all joining along here. I'll try to be back next Monday. I'll definitely be back in the booth on Wednesday and Thursday. For the CCRL on Wednesday, that'll be 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Eastern for the Midwest F1 League, my home league. Easter Sunday, won't be doing it then, but I'll be back here in Monkey Mafia next Monday when we go to Imola for the 5th round of the season. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you once again this time out, and we'll see you next time.